BookTV recently visited Capitol Hill to ask members of Congress what they're reading this summer.
I'm reading, for the second time, by the way, David Grant's book, The Killers of the Flower Moon. And I don't usually read books that are on the bestseller list. I like to go off into the wilderness there. But it's a great book about the Osage Indians from the end of the second decade to beginning of the third decade in the 20th century, who were pillaged, in fact murdered, in order to get land that they owned because it was giving up oil. And they folks descended on them. It happened at a very interesting time in American history, if you remember, because in the beginning of the 20s, 1920s, we had the famous Teapot Dome scandal, where Secretary Fall was giving off public lands to private developers, in fact, naval oil reserves in Wyoming. And this was opening up a whole kind of thing. There was definitely corruption. And in this book, David points out very, very clearly, in this particular instance with the Osage Indians tribe in Oklahoma, there was murder. Excuse me, there was conspiracy. And you know what Don DeLillo, one of my favorite writers, said about conspiracy? In his book, Libra, he wrote this. Don DeLillo, of course, I'm quoting because he's a Fordham Fellow guy, so I'm a Fordham guy. A conspiracy is everything that ordinary life is not. It's the inside game. Cold, sure, undistracted, forever closed off to us. We are the flawed ones, the innocents, trying to make some rough sense of the daily jostle. Conspirators have a logic and a daring beyond our reach. All conspiracies are the same taught story of men who find coherence in some criminal act. Dan DeLillo in Libra. I couldn't find a better definition of conspiracy anyplace. What we were doing is not only being prejudiced against the Indians, which Americans have had a knack of, but also taking what was deserving of them. They were on this land, oil was discovered, and we folks come along, the conspirators, in order to get it back. And if we have to use murder to do it, we'll do it. So many of these tribes people were killed and murdered, poisoned. Doctors had to conspire, judges had to conspire, lawyers had to conspire. This was a true conspiracy. And if I told you the story before this book came out, you would say, that's crazy. That couldn't have happened to you. There are too many laws. By the way, this gave way to the FBI. J. Edgar Hoover fumbled with the conspiracy in the 20s, was trying to make sense of it, not until a Texas Ranger really came to help him, Mr. Tom White. And there's a story in and of itself of how he pursued it persistently and how people were keeping quiet about it. This was a real conspiracy against an Indian tribe. And this book is a fantastic book, and David has done a fantastic job as far as I'm concerned. Held my interest from the beginning to the end. The mystery of it, the historical nature of it, and it's true.
BookTV wants to know what you're reading. Send us your summer reading list at BookTV on Twitter, Instagram, or on Facebook. BookTV on C-SPAN 2, television for serious readers.